This episode is brought to you by the American Red Cross. The start of the new year is one of the most challenging times to collect blood products. Severe winter weather can often lead to widespread blood drive cancellations. But you can be the life-saving difference this January and make an appointment to give now. In the hour it takes to donate blood, you can help save the lives of patients in Denver and across the country. To download the Red Cross Blood Donor app, visit redcrossblood.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to make an appointment. Today on CityCast Denver, could Denver ban ICE agents from covering their faces during arrest and deportation operations? Can anything be done at the city level to address Trump's threats to childcare funding in Colorado? I'm sitting down with at-large City Council member Sarah Parady to get the scoop on these topics, plus discuss the current state of Denver's contracts with Flock, ask why she voted no to millions in subsidies for a new women's soccer stadium, and more. Today is Wednesday, January 14th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Councilperson Sarah Parady, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So I want to start with something that feels extremely relevant in this moment. It's this idea for a proposal to ban law enforcement officers, including ICE agents, from covering their faces during arrest and detention operations. And I know that this bill was put forth by fellow council people Floral Vidres of District 7 and Chantel Lewis of District 8 in a council committee meeting. But I mean, you're very much involved around issues that involve policing. Could you talk more about what this potential law could be?
Yeah. So the council members, my colleagues, have done a great job of teeing this up for the rest of us. They have it drafted. They've looked at what a lot of other jurisdictions have done. And it's pretty straightforward. It actually matches what our police department already has as its internal policy, which is that they don't cover their faces because the public should be able to see them unless they have a need to do that for physical safety. They're allowed to wear medical masks when they need to do so, things like that, like obvious kinds of exceptions, or if they're undercover and the mask is sort of like part of that in some way. So this is just codifying that instead of having it within our police operations manual and saying that it applies to any kind of law enforcement agent that's operating in the city. And again, this is such a no-brainer from a public safety point of view that it's sort of weird to be passing an ordinance doing it because any law enforcement agency that has any sort of accountability to the public does not mask, right? Sure.
I guess I'm thinking in practical terms, though. So DPD's already on this level. But this kind of bill was put forth in California, and I believe that President Trump has sued to block it. I wonder what this might look like in practice when we're talking about ICE agents in the city of Denver.
Yeah, I mean, we're in such a weird world legally right now that in California, I think the argument that they're making is that the supremacy clause allows them to do whatever. That's not what the supremacy clause has ever historically been understood to do. But also, we have a Supreme Court that is going off in all kinds of really strange directions. And so I'm a little worried that this will be a vehicle to make new law that essentially says that we can't, regulate the conduct of federal agents in any way, which has never been true. States and cities are supposed to be the main governmental powers in the United States, and then the federal government has very limited power. And so it's never been the case that we couldn't sort of treat federal agents the same way that we treat our own law enforcement agents when we're talking about just basic regulations on their conduct that doesn't affect their ability to do their jobs. But you never know. That new law could be made, and I wouldn't put it past this current Supreme Court. It would be a pretty scary change to how we think about the levels of government. So then what it means in Denver in the meantime is if we do put this into law, and again, it shouldn't be controversial because actually I think most of these agencies have this same policy internally as well. But if we put it into law in Denver, it would mean a couple of things. One of the questions that I brought up yesterday in committee was about or maybe I was talking about this internally with colleagues. Actually, I'm not sure if I asked it during committee. But one of the questions I have is how can we think about what the consequences should be for these agents if they are masking. And of course, ultimately, anything in Denver code that is, if you do something that Denver law says you can't do, that is a municipal crime. And theoretically, our police department can enforce that, can arrest you, and it would carry whatever our baseline sentence is under our municipal code. So there's a world where people, if they see masked agents in their community, I think people have been calling the police. And this would give DPD, in addition to other conduct that might be happening, that if you don't know whether they're an ICE agent or not, you don't know whether it's legal or not, right? Is this a kidnapping? Is this a lawful activity? It would give DPD a reason to go out to that location and sort of see what's happening. I do have a lot of trepidation about that because confrontations between different levels of law enforcement are a frightening kind of thing. Then you have two sets of people that are potentially armed, and you have basically a situation that's already really dangerous, and we're leaning on DPD to go in and find a way to potentially de-escalate that. So I always worry about that a little bit because I'm not usually a believer that, more armed force in a situation makes people safer. But here, we've actually heard examples from around the country where these agents are so poorly trained. They are not
the ICE agents you're
often
talking
law
about.
enforcement professionals,
Yes.
in the way that like DPD is. And so sometimes when local law enforcement shows up and takes control of the situation, they leave. And so I think I would want to be in on the conversation about what kind of training DPD was doing. And then I also would want to be thinking about what kinds of other consequences there could be. Like, for example, if you're a law enforcement agency and you're sending masked agents into Denver, maybe we no longer participate in task force investigations with you. Maybe you no longer have access to any kind of Denver information or data that you might want. And that seems pretty appropriate to me. So I think we should be thinking a little more broadly about what happens if this is violated. And then I also think that there's an element of it where it's just like, even though we might be, we know that this will probably be violated, it is a really fundamental thing that anyone who's authorized to use force shouldn't be hiding their identity. I mean, that's so basic to safety and to any level of trust that we might ever have in those who use force, which of course is gone with ICE and probably never coming back, if we ever had it. So part of codifying that is just like, this is the right policy. And if the federal government's going to violate it, that's not on Denver City Council, right? Like we should put this in our law because there should not be secret cops running around in our communities with guns. So yeah, a lot of thoughts on it, but I think it's the right thing to do. And then I do think, like, because of the way the federal government is behaving, we have to think a lot about how it will play out.
Denver Post reported that one of your colleagues, Councilman Cashman, said he didn't think it could actually change the behavior or actions of ICE, but be more of a statement of the council's principles. Do you agree with that, or do you still see that there could be some practical use to a law like this?
I think there could be some practical use to it because, again, like, we have our own state and local law enforcement entities that are supposed to protect us. And so it does give the ability, and again, I don't want to escalate situations, but I think it's appropriate for Denver law enforcement to be able to inquire and say, like, what agency are you with? We don't mask here, and maybe they would get a different response than like citizens or just people on the street who are trying to ask those same questions. I also think it would be appropriate for us to require them, and this isn't in the bill right now, but to wear or carry identification that says their name, their agency, to show that when asked, and to allow people to photograph that if they have to show it, and to do that for anybody. And again, I don't know that they're going to obey that, but we are facing like a confrontation between a hostile federal government that's coming here to harm us. And so we really have to think about how to handle that. And Denver has a police force. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting we're watching this play out across the country, how local law enforcement interacts with ICE and how we as a community are supposed to feel about these entities. But I do think it's important as you explained, Denver police already have to have a badge and be visible and be able to be identified. And at this point, it doesn't seem that ICE has that same requirement. And this would just basically say Denver has this requirement if it was pushed through. So that was presented in a committee. So we may see this go to council soon, it sounds like.
Yep. That would be the next. Well, I think it would come back. That was a non-voting committee. So it would come back to committee again, and then to the full body.
This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. As the backbone of this city for 165 years, they are Denver's most trusted. Denver Health is more than a hospital, more than a doctor, more than a treatment. They are a community. Denver Health is your neighbor, your champion. They offer emergency care, urgent care, and primary care, as well as healthcare in more than 130 other specialties. Most major insurance types are accepted. Oh, and did you know this summer, Denver Health is bringing care closer to home with the opening of the Denver Health Southeast Medical Center at the corner of Evans and Monaco. Serving adult patients, this new clinic will feature adult primary care and specialty care services. Denver Health, with you for life's journey. To find trusted healthcare near you, visit denverhealth.org/citycast for more information. That's denverhealth.org/citycast. Did you know CityCast Denver has a perks program? Every week, we're highlighting some standout deals from our favorite businesses in town to help you support local and save some money. It's a win-win. Here are some highlights from this week. Check out Meow Wolf's Adultiverse Space Rodeo on January 17th and experience the worlds of Meow Wolf Denver, transformed into a 21 and up psychedelic party. Saddle up for an intergalactic adventure. Just use code GIDDYUP for $4.20 off an Adultiverse ticket. Offer available for redemption now through January 17th. Or what about Topo Designs? Just visit a Topo Designs retail store and mention this ad to receive 20% off your purchase. Some exclusions apply. Valid until February 1st. Looking for some fun? Check out Green Door and pre-order a curated cannabis box for your Denver trip. Includes edibles, snacks, and local accessories. Ready for pickup near your stay. No stress, no lines, just a better trip. Use code DenverPerk for $10 off any experience box. To see a full list of participating businesses, just visit denver.citycast.fm/perks. It's a great way to check out new restaurants, shops, and events in the Mile High City without breaking your budget. And I love that for you. Let's talk about something else that you've been really passionate about. In October, Mayor Johnston decided to extend Denver's contracts with Flock, which is the surveillance company with license plate cameras all over the city. Hundreds of Denverites turned out to a town hall that same month to protest this move by the mayor. The contract for Flock is up again in March. What's the latest?
Yeah, that was the biggest town hall I've ever been at. It was pretty amazing. I think people, I don't know, this is an issue that, like, I think anyone who was raised on our, like, American zeitgeist of, like, sort of, you have your private world and you have freedom to operate as yourself, whatever. It pushes all of our buttons, and it should. I've been trying to convey to people. So these cameras, just to make sure folks know what we're talking about, this is like such a new frontier in the world of surveillance. And the more I learn about them, the more creeped out I get, honestly. The difference is that, unlike any kind of sort of camera system that you could imagine before, maybe 5 or so years ago, they're algorithmically powered. And so there are these, they're AI cameras. So when they take a picture, they're told to do that by the algorithm. So they know when a car is passing by, if that's what they're set to do. But not only that, they can basically identify and read anything in the image. So they can read the plate. They can identify individual cars based on, like, scratches and dings, and make and model. They can read bumper stickers. They could probably identify pretty much anything in that image. And then that data is all going to a central place where the algorithm is looking at it and analyzing it. And no individual law enforcement officer, if you think about, like, classic privacy law, could do that. Like, a human brain can't do that. You don't have eyes on the street at 117, locations all at once, looking at every car and immediately being able to, in your own brain, compare that to every other car you've ever seen. much less nationwide. Like humans can't do that. So it's phenomenally different implications for privacy and safety to create this kind of data. So the latest is basically that the mayor did sign the extension contract. We still haven't seen anything from the city auditor, by the way, whose signature is required on city contracts, in addition to the clerk and recorder. So whether or not that contract is legally effective, I don't even know that I could tell you. And if it is not, then we're currently flying without any kind of agreement with this company about what it's supposed to be doing with all of our data that it's taking every single day, 2 million images a month. So I'm not thrilled about that. That also happened from last February to last July. There was a period where we had no contract in place with this company. And this isn't like, I would never trust any corporation with reams of Denverites data on like a wink and a nudge and a handshake, but certainly not this one, because this is the company that put all of our plates on a national network, searchable by 6,000 law enforcement agencies, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of individual law enforcement users around the country without telling us or getting our permission, and probably in violation of the contract we had at that time. So we cannot trust this company. Why the mayor thinks that it's okay to let these cameras keep running a year after we first raised these issues in committee, I do not know, and I will never understand.
Yeah, I believe his reasoning is that it's been a useful tool for law enforcement locally around stolen cars and other crimes. But I think I'm just thinking about how I preface this question, which is as a license plate camera. And like you said, it did take those license plates and put them into a database. But I think license plate's almost a misnomer because, like you're explaining, these take in so much more information than just a license plate number. Like you said, it's the physical, what the car looks like. I'm thinking about all the bumper stickers I have on my car, which are like not uniquely me, but that collection of them is absolutely.
They call it your vehicle fingerprint. So that's what they track, is your vehicle fingerprint, your personal vehicle fingerprint.
And so what you're saying is we don't necessarily know where the contract is right now, or will you explain a little bit more what you were saying with the involvement of the auditor and the clerk and where we are as a city with this contract? Have you not been able to see it, or?
I've seen the version that the mayor signed, and I was not impressed with the alleged protections that he said he had personally negotiated. But the city contracts also have to be signed by the auditor, not just the mayor, to be effective. And like many sort of balance of powers issues, I don't know that we've ever like gone to court over whether the contract is binding on the other party if only the mayor signs and not the auditor. Not sure how that would play out. But it's been on the auditor's desk for some time. And actually, I need to check in again about that because we don't get automatically notified when the auditor signs every single less than $500,000 contract, because that's thousands of contracts. I do think that the auditor's office will let council know because he knows our interest in it. And so to my understanding, he has not signed it yet. And so unclear if it's even a binding agreement at this point.
So if it's not a binding agreement, or again, it is, but this contract expires in March, what are the next steps for you all at council? What are you thinking about? Because obviously, I think this is still an issue that a lot of Denverites and folks in Colorado in general are still concerned about.
Yeah. And so this piece about this contract piece is just sort of out of our hands for now, right? And we can't, I suppose there was a city council that put bags over flock cameras when they had voted flock out, and then it came back. So short of doing that, which I have not done, there's not a lot we can do about this particular contract extension. But we've been working really hard. We pressed the mayor to create this surveillance task force. I'm on it. Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez is on it. Councilmember Flynn is on it. And then we have a lot of experts from every possible kind of angle, including DPD that's very invested in these cameras continuing. So we have been working through a big process of understanding like how the city screens vendors and their data practices, and how the cameras are actually used. And I think we're coming to the point where that task force will hopefully be discussing actual legislation soon. And certainly my office is also thinking really hard about possible legislation. State legislators are doing the same. So there may be some room for city council as a body, or members as individuals, to advocate with the state legislature for some of those solutions. One that I really like is, like, going back to basics. We have a lot of Fourth Amendment case law, and so even though courts have a hard time understanding the overlap between privacy and algorithms, it's just really different than old-timey privacy cases where you have like a gumshoe on the streets or whatever. I feel that this is a privacy violation. Some courts have agreed with that, others have not. It's unresolved. And so there's a proposal at the state level to just say, look, just like with any other kind of private information, you have to either get a warrant, there has to be a genuine emergency, like a kidnapping unfolding, or in this case, because a lot of times what police say the use case for, what they say they want to use it for, is tracking stolen vehicles. The person who owns the car could just consent to the search and say, look, yes, search my plate. So that would take care of car theft, that would take care of genuine emergencies, and that would take care of a situation where you've investigated a more serious crime and you sort of have the evidence that you need to track this car. So I think that's a pretty promising solution. But then on top of that, we still need to think about how much data are we creating, where is it being kept? Like, those things are still important, even if we've restricted the access. The mere existence of the data we also have to think about. So
there's already data out there. Even if the flock cameras were shut down tomorrow, a lot of our data, you said 200 million images a month were being collected?
2 million images a month.
2 million images a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think it's a possibility? Is there a future where Denver doesn't have flock cameras?
Man, I would ban them in an instant personally, but I'm a person on a 13-member body. I think there's a future where Denver looks at different ALPR camera providers that are a lot more reputable. I don't know that we're going to get to the point of banning them. If people from the public want to see that happening, please be vocal about it. I think likely, though, what we're going to get is a much more restricted version of this, where they're here, but they're not taking in as much data, they're not maintaining as much data, and police agencies are not able to access as much data. And honestly, like, I could live with that compared to what we have now, because it is just so frightening. And so that level of improvement would be a big improvement. Again, if I was, the queen of Denver, yes, I would ban them. But it's okay that I'm not. It's a democracy.
Okay, let's talk about another hot topic, which is the state of stadiums in this city. So last month, after an initial delay, City Council voted to approve $50 million for the purchase of the land for the construction of the National Women's Soccer League Stadium off of Broadway and I-25. You were one of 3 council members who voted no. Why?
Because I infamously hate fun. No, that's not why. It was hard. It was a hard vote because the cultural aspects of women's soccer. I mean, watching the women's national team fight for equal pay right when we were passing our Colorado equal pay bill, showing that to, I have a 7-year-old daughter, no clues yet whether she's going to be athletic at all, but I am so deeply right there with everybody on that. But it was like pulling a budget decision out of the context of the budget. If we voted one by one on every single use of our capital dollars, it would really distort the outcomes. We don't do that. We vote on it once in the budget, and sometimes there's special votes because you're reallocating money or moving it around or whatever. But pulling this out of the context of the rest of the budget, we don't have $50 million of capital money sitting around. We just don't. We have $7 billion of capital needs on this long list that all the agencies keep. And it's not even like their pie in the sky list. It's like their, please do this tomorrow. This bridge is getting a D list. I have seen that list. It haunts my dreams. And not to mention housing, right? The city can invest in housing. We have tens of thousands of units, more people becoming homeless every day. And so it's just this sad statement on where things are. And the thing is, I just don't buy that this ownership group couldn't have afforded to buy the land for itself, because at the jump, they were estimating that their stadium was going to cost them about 150 million, 100 to 150 million is what they told us. And then more recently, they've said, well, it's going to be more like 300 million because everything is rising in costs, which we all know that's happening. So if they can somehow finance a doubling of the cost of the stadium, but they couldn't have afforded the 15 million for the land. What's really going on there, and it took me time to figure this out, is that the city buying it, the Metro District owning it, makes it exempt from property tax. So they're not going to pay property tax into the future, which is an additional subsidy and a pretty big one. And they're also benefiting from this TIF financing, tax increment financing agreement that's nestled into this whole deal, where if there's development around the stadium, which has been underway for a long time, that land has been cleaned up. There's owners there that want to build real estate. It's finally at the point of being buildable. If it comes, I don't know that we can draw conclusions one way or the other about whether the stadium played a role in that, because it's at the cusp of happening. If that gets built, all of those owners are going to be paying property tax, and sales tax will be paid on activities that happen there and at the stadium. And all of that tax, the stadium ownership group is eligible to have that, have the cost of their stadium paid back to them once the existing infrastructure debt for cleaning up the land and all that is paid back. And on the last night of the vote, I was still trying to get the back of the envelope math about that from, what are the projections, how much tax is going to come in, and learned sitting up there, because I wasn't sure how I was going to vote, but learned sitting up there that the projection is that they will likely get paid back for something like $100 million of their stadium from taxes that are being paid for on the development around the stadium. I'm just not okay with that. It's too big of a subsidy for these wealthy private owners. It's not a public facility. So that's where I came down, but it hurt. It hurt.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, because, yeah, I totally get it. As a person that's advocated for women and all sorts of folks to have access to things, it's a struggle to see something like this become this flashpoint. But, money's money. City money's money. We're in an interesting place now as a city. Okay.
Well, and if you want to, honestly, also, we just cut out of school programming. And so if you want to support girls getting into sports, imagine what $50 million could do for after school care. I mean, really, those are capital dollars. So that one we can't just directly move, but we invest in these goofy ways. And so I just it wasn't the right use of the money. That said, I'm not sad if the team comes here. I'll be really happy. So I really hope they do right by us now that the decision has been made.
Well, you're kind of segueing into my next question, which is, like you said, you're a working parent like myself. Trump recently froze funding for childcare services and assistance for low-income families in Colorado, which is one of the many things that he's tried to do against several Democrat-led states. A judge has since halted that freeze in funding, but I do wonder, have you had any thoughts to creating a solution for these looming gaps in childcare at funding? I guess I should say funding for childcare. Is there any thought to doing something at a city level?
The scale of these funds always gets kind of in our way. We did a tiny thing on council that I was really proud of. Councilmember Cashman and myself, I think there may have been other council co-sponsors, but I believe it was just the two of us, restored Denver's existing contributions to after school programming, which were subject to being cut in the mayor's first draft budget. So we put those back in place because in Denver, for people that use that funding, 70% of those parents say that they would basically have to quit a job if they lost it. I mean, it's just really existential for families, which again, we know kind of innately. But so as far as how we would solve all of these huge federal benefits that flow to the state level and then flow to Denver if they were cut, honestly, a lot of them, the dollar figures are so big that I don't even know how Denver would go about doing that. We don't have the tools unless we repeal TABOR, and that's the truth. And I just have decided I'm going to say that to people because we're now in this era where it's like the new federalism. We need states and cities to be able to govern, and we cannot do it if we cannot tax different types of property differently. Please let me tax massive wealthy landowners, including stadiums perhaps, but and have them pay more than someone who's owned their house since 1970 is on Social Security. We can't do that right now. We have got to be able to address that. And we could do it in a graduated way. The graduated income tax that'll be on the ballot has got to pass. That will save our state budget. And that is a small inroad into TABOR, but we need to just get rid of the whole thing and let us govern. We just have to. Otherwise, there's no way for us to deal with these kinds of hits to our financial stability.
Will you explain the ballot issue that you're talking about? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the Colorado Fiscal Institute and a bunch of, smart pantses. But I believe that we're all going to be asked to vote in this November, I think. Yeah, it's this November on instead of having a flat income tax, having a graduated one so that higher earners would pay more, which, we should. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I hope it'll pass. I think it will.
Well, I appreciate you two putting into context just how big this childcare issue is, that it's like the funding is so massive, Denver couldn't even fix it for it ourselves if we wanted to. Like that's just not a possibility. And I think that I would hope that gives folks an understanding of just, even if you don't have kids, this is how big of an impact it's going to have on your community. But
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And honestly, I mean, Medicaid is even more so. So yeah, we just we have to sort of be a part of, at the state level, there are things we can do. At the local level, it's pretty overwhelming. So we just have to be part of what's happening at a statewide level and be loud as Denver.
So I saw a video from you on Instagram this week about this idea of reducing sentences for low-level offenses, reducing those sentences at a city level to match with the reduced sentencing that already exists for these same crimes at a state level. Can you give us sort of the too long didn't read version of this idea that you're proposing?
I can try, but I might turn it into the just still too long Sarah talking version. It's become a lot more simple. The Colorado Supreme Court just held that under our state constitution, equal protection provision. So again, a little bit of federalism here. It's not constitutional to have longer sentences for the exact same conduct within a city than the state would impose. And that's partly because when someone is arrested, there's nothing that decides whether they're charged under the laws of the city that they're in or under the state. The police officer can fill out a ticket and sort of choose. Then maybe the city and state prosecutors might make a different determination. And it kind of depends on like which office likes to prosecute which things or has resources to do that or all kinds of things. So there is like a certain arbitrariness to that. And I've been concerned about that for a long time. And now the Supreme Court has said it's unconstitutional. So had been working on a bill to fix this for the entire time that I've been on council. And what that means is that luckily for Denver, now that we have this ruling, we have several of us on council, along with our public defender's office and a lot of outside experts who kind of have already created the bill. Why that's hard, though, and why it's not just sort of a slam dunk, easy implementation issue is because you really quickly get into the weeds of what's actually an identical crime. There's examples like, the city bans retail theft specifically. The state statute bans theft overall because it used to have lots of different theft statutes and then it lumped them all together in the 70s. So we have like little subspecies of theft that we criminalize and handle at the city. And then, for example, like we have parks curfew violations. We also have a trespass law. The state has trespass. Is a park curfew violation that says like you're not supposed to go into the park at 11 p.m. Is that just a form of trespass or is that something different? So it gets down in the weeds really quickly. And so if we don't act as city council, we're going to have public defenders and prosecutors fighting this out and getting really uneven, weird outcomes. And unfortunately, the politics of it are that the three mayors of Denver, Colorado Springs, and Aurora sent a letter to the state legislature this week saying that cities have such an interest in punishing people for shoplifting that the state should get out of the business, repeal their theft statute for shoplifting, and let us keep sentencing people to almost a year for shoplifting of $300 and less. By the way, that's for a single offense. You can already in Denver add sentences together. So you could charge someone with state shoplifting, which carries a 10-day sentence. And if they do it 3 times, you can charge them 3 times. But that's apparently not good enough for the mayors.
Wow. I'm
Sorry,
just
that
laughing.
Was not the short version.
No, it's okay. You kind of gave the example that you gave on Instagram, which is like shoplifting something under $300 could get you almost 10 months in jail under Denver. At the state level, it's more like 10 days. So kind
it
of
is 10 days. And
it's
when I when I came into office, I just thought, like, this is so anachronistic. Nobody must know that this is on the books. Surely we can just get rid of this and clean this up, even before the state Supreme Court said it is unconstitutional. And it has just been an uphill battle because there is a really punitive streak right now over in the executive branch. And I will say, like, I know a lot of people who own small businesses, and there have been periodic instances of theft along certain corridors. Like, I know it's a real problem,
Sure.
but there's not a lot of evidence that the difference between a 10-day jail sentence and a 10-month jail sentence fixes it. Especially because if people are doing this in a more professionalized kind of way, or, doing it over and over and over again, rather than just doing it out of like survival, you can, there are ways that you can string charges together, or it can eventually rise to a higher level. But if you're talking about people who are shoplifting out of being in like really desperate circumstances, the jail sentence is like the fix. And we know that, like, we just know that by now. And I get kind of exhausted by having these same conversations in circles where we think that if we just send more people to jail for longer, somehow the underlying problems will fix themselves, and they won't. And it's so expensive because we
It's
pay for the
expensive.
prosecutor, we pay for the cop, we pay for the public defender, we pay for the courtroom, we pay for the jail, and all of those things are incredibly expensive. And so why do we keep doing this,
Before we go, is there anything you're thinking about? Any other big thing? I mean, that's such a broad question, but we're looking into 2026. Are there any
Yeah.
other topics or issues you're thinking about or working on tackling for Denver in the next year?
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that. It's hard to look too far forward in this job because it's so like all consuming, and I love it so much. But I am officially and formally announcing that I'm going to run again.
Oh,
I think I always knew that I was, but um, I'm like settling into that thought now. I love this job. It is the best thing I have ever done. And I think what's so great about it is, like, we get a lot done at the city. Like, I wish that everybody, I'm always telling reporters and media folks that you all should just be doing the story about like how functional we are. And I know like there's drama, but mostly we're really functional. Like, we get things accomplished. I was looking back at this with my team because we're doing strategic planning right now and trying to think about like what we need to focus on. And I want more time to keep doing all the things, but I will keep the pedal to the metal for as long as I know that I've got. We've sponsored and passed 12 bills, which
this
is
year?
one every couple of months since we
Oh,
started. So it's
okay.
like 2.5 years,
Okay.
um, which is a lot for council because it hasn't classically been that much of a legislative body. And then um, city contracts are a really big deal. And so we've done things like hit the brakes on the City Excel franchise agreement, which was going to go to the ballot this November as negotiated by Excel and the executive branch. And council looked at it and said, you know what, Excel, if you want right of way access to our entire city and to be like our monopolistic utility for another 20 years, you have got to do a little bit more for consumers and the climate in Denver. So they have to go back to the drawing board. We're going to send that through again. And that was just us using our ability to approve that agreement. Flock came to us as a contract. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to keep doing this for another 4 years.
Is this your
And
official announcement? Have you announced anywhere else?
I've not announced anywhere, so I guess it is. I mean, what's official, really?
Yay.
But yes, I'm saying it here to you, Bree, and everybody listening to CityCast who are like my Denver nerds, that I'm going to do it.
You are accurate. That is our audience. We have
Yeah,
proud civic nerds in our audience. I am one of those
it's the
people. And
best. I always get texts, and they're like the text where someone is screenshotting their friend texting them or whatever, and people have many thoughts. It's the best thing ever. So I look forward to whatever text I'm going to get after this. But I think, like, on the one hand, if I look back at 4 years ago, what I was running on, in some ways, those are still our problems. Like, housing is a crisis; it's still a crisis. I'm really proud of some of the stuff we've done on that, trying to both think about like making it easier to add units that people can actually afford, and then also thinking about how to give people relief until we get there. We still have climate change that hasn't gone anywhere, but then also there's been this change of the federal government that's really different, and we're kind of the line of defense for people that are vulnerable in different ways. Like, we got to hold together as a community in Denver, and our local government, it like plays a huge role in that, and we have to we have to keep ourselves like so deeply accountable right now because we're kind of what we've got, you know?
Yeah. Well, Councilmember Parady, thank you so much. This was really lovely. Thanks for joining me.
It was totally awesome. I really appreciate it. And I love your curtains behind
Oh, thank you. My aunt made those out of vintage fabric. My Aunt Erin sewed those for me. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell the father of Tabor, Doug Bruce, about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. And hey, thanks to our new neighbor, Edgar W., who just joined our membership program. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.